My name is Mary J. Greco. I'm 26 years old. He's my boyfriend, or I guess now my ex. We'd been together a little over a year. Not casual, not seeing where it goes. A real relationship. Met families, shared keys, inside jokes, future talk, the whole thing. He blinked when I said it. I remember that part clearly, like he was waiting for me to argue my case, to remind him how good we were, to promise to change whatever invisible thing he'd decided was wrong with me. Instead, I grabbed my jacket. He followed me to the door, suddenly softer. "I really hope this doesn't ruin things," he said. "I care about you. I just think, friends is healthier." I nodded again. "Yeah, friends." He smiled, relieved, actually relieved, like he'd just dodged a scene he didn't want to deal with. Here's what he didn't know. I'd already felt him pulling away for weeks, the sarcasm that wasn't playful anymore, the way he corrected me in front of people, the eye rolls when I talked about work, the way every disagreement somehow turned into me being too sensitive. This wasn't sudden. It was just him deciding he was done before I was allowed to be. I went home, put my keys on the counter, and sat in the dark for a while. No music, no texting friends, just letting it land. He texted me later that night. "I hope you're okay. I just didn't want to string you along." I didn't reply. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No fighting, no closure talks. Just this unspoken assumption that I'd stay right where he left me, emotionally available, conveniently single, waiting in the background under the label friend. A few days later, he checked in again, casual. "We're still cool, right?" I replied, "Yeah." And I meant it, because by then, something had already shifted. The first week after the breakup was weirdly easy. That sounds wrong, I know. I expected the sleepless nights, the urge to text him, the constant replaying of conversations. Instead, it felt like the pressure in my chest finally backed off, like I'd been holding my breath without realizing it. I went to work. I cooked real meals. I slept through the night. The quiet didn't feel empty. It felt spacious. He didn't disappear, though. He leaned hard into the friends thing, not checking in like someone who cared, but hovering like someone who still wanted a key. He started reacting to my Instagram stories again, not liking them, reacting. Fire emojis, laughing faces, the kind of low-effort attention that says, "I still want access, just not responsibility." Then came the comments. If I posted something even mildly positive, he had something to say. "Wow, you're really thriving already." Upside down smiley. "Must be nice to move on so fast." Didn't realize we meant that little. Always framed as jokes. Always with just enough edge to make me second-guess myself if I pushed back. I ignored most of it. That Friday, we ran into each other at a mutual friend's birthday. I almost didn't go. Then I realized I wasn't going to start shrinking my life because of him. He showed up late, loud, already irritated. The first thing he did was scan the room, find me, and lock his eyes onto whatever I was doing. I was laughing with someone. That alone seemed to bother him. He walked up like nothing had happened. "Hey, stranger," he said, bumping my shoulder. "Didn't think you'd come." "Why not?" I asked. He shrugged. "I don't know. Figured you'd need space or something." That was rich coming from the person who broke up with me and then hovered like a bad signal all night. He stayed close, too close, making little comments, correcting me mid-story, teasing me in that sharp, not funny way he'd perfected near the end of our relationship. At one point, he leaned in and said, "So, you holding up okay? I was worried you'd spiral." I looked at him and smiled. "I'm good." He didn't like that answer. By the end of the night, he was clearly unsettled, not angry, disoriented, like I wasn't performing the role he expected, the role where I missed him, where I waited, where I proved he still mattered more than my own dignity. When I got home, there was already a text waiting. "You were acting kind of distant tonight." I stared at my phone for a long moment before typing back. "We're just friends. This is what that looks like." He didn't reply. But something told me that conversation wasn't over. The shift happened quietly about a week later. A coworker named Daniel asked if I wanted to grab coffee after work. No build-up, no date language, just coffee. I almost said no out of habit, then caught myself. Why would I? So I went. It was easy. No tension. No walking on eggshells. No subtle jabs disguised as jokes. We talked about dumb work things, favorite places in the city, how strange adulthood feels when no one gives you a manual. He asked questions and actually waited for the answers. I didn't feel like I was being graded. I didn't post about it. I didn't mention it to anyone. It wasn't about proving anything. Somehow he found out anyway. That night, my phone buzzed. "So you're already seeing someone?" I stared at the screen, genuinely confused. What are you talking about? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Don't play dumb. I heard you were out with some guy. There it was. The edge. The accusation wrapped in entitlement. I grabbed coffee with a coworker, I replied. Another pause. Then, wow, that was fast. Guess friends was just an excuse for you to move on. I almost laughed. He was the one who ended it. He was the one who said he didn't want to hurt me. And now somehow I was the villain for continuing to exist. I didn't respond. The next few days, his tone shifted completely. No sarcasm. Now it was concern. Are you okay? You seem different lately. I just don't want things to be weird between us. Weird was his default setting. Daniel and I went out again later that week. This time dinner. Intentional. Still slow. Still normal. Still free of drama. I posted a story. Just food and a table. No faces. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. I didn't answer. He called again, then texted. Are you seriously ignoring me now? That was the moment it clicked. His idea of friends didn't include me choosing someone else. It didn't include me being unavailable. It didn't include me not orbiting his emotions on demand. It was never about not hurting me. It was about not losing access. I put my phone face down and went back to dinner. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. The calls didn't stop after that night. They escalated. First irritation. So this is how you treat someone you care about. Then guilt. I thought we were mature enough to stay in each other's lives. Then the rewrite. You're acting like I cheated on you or something. I was honest. Isn't that what you wanted? I didn't answer any of it. 2 days later, he showed up at my place. No warning, no text, just a knock, like he still belonged there. I opened the door already annoyed. He walked in like he owned the air, eyes scanning the room, taking in the changes, my jacket on a different hook, a plant on the windowsill he used to complain about. Small things, but they mattered. So, he said, arms crossed, you're really doing this. Doing what? I asked. Replacing me, he snapped. I let out a slow breath. You broke up with me. He scoffed. Don't twist it. I said friends. That wasn't a pause button, I said. That was an ending. His face tightened. Wow, I didn't realize you were this petty. There it was. The same word he always used when I didn't play along. I stayed calm. You don't get to decide how I move on. He laughed, sharp and humorless. I just didn't expect you to move on this fast. That sentence said everything. Not move on before he was ready. He paced my living room, talking at me now. He said he thought we had something mature, said he thought I respected him enough not to jump into something else immediately. I met his eyes. Respect goes both ways. He froze like he hadn't expected resistance. So what? He snapped. You're just done with me. I shrugged. I'm done waiting. Silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, his voice dropped. You're really not going to fight for this. That was the breaking point. The moment everything in me shut the door. I shook my head. No. Not angry, not cruel, just final. Panic flickered across his face. He grabbed his bag. Fine, he said. Don't come crawling back. I didn't respond. When the door closed behind him, something solidified in my chest. Not relief, not victory, clarity. And I knew he wasn't done yet. The week after he came to my place was when he fully unraveled. It started with late-night texts that pretended to be casual, but weren't. Do you ever think about us? I keep remembering inside jokes and it's messing with my head. I didn't think you'd just disappear like this. I didn't answer. Then came the mood swings. One morning it was, I hope he's worth it. By lunchtime, I'm genuinely happy for you. I just want you to be okay. By night, for someone who claimed to love me, you moved on disgustingly fast. That one almost got a response. Almost. Instead, I muted the thread. That's when he changed tactics. He started posting. Mirror selfies with captions about choosing himself. Stories at bars, with quotes about knowing your worth, layered over moody, black and white photos. He used to make fun of that kind of thing. Now it was his entire personality. Like clockwork, he watched everything I posted, every story, every like. He didn't interact anymore. He just monitored. A mutual friend texted me one night. Just a heads up, he's been asking who you're seeing. I replied, I'm not hiding anything. I know, the friend said. He's just not taking it well. That made me laugh, not because it was funny, but because of how predictable it was. He didn't miss me. He missed leverage. The next time he reached out, it was different. Can we talk, not fight, just talk? I agreed to meet for coffee, public place, neutral ground. Closure, I thought. He arrived early and sat across from me with that familiar tight smile. "This whole thing got out of hand," he said. "You ended it." "You did," I replied. He waved it off. "I meant temporarily. I just needed space. You weren't supposed to replace me." There it was out loud. "That's not how breakups work," I said. He leaned forward. "I just think you owe me a little time before whatever this is." I stood up, dropped a few bills on the table, and said the only thing left to say. "I don't owe you anything." His mouth opened, then closed. For the first time since all of this started, he didn't have a comeback. I walked out knowing one thing for sure. He wasn't losing me. He already had. I thought that coffee would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, he blocked me on everything. Instagram, Twitter, even Spotify, which honestly felt petty but on brand. I noticed because the silence suddenly felt loud, like he wanted me to notice he was gone, like blocking me was supposed to scare me or pull some reaction out of me. I didn't react. 3 days after that, he unblocked me. No message, no explanation, just quietly reversed it, probably waiting for a "hey, why did you block me" text that never came. That's when he started reaching out through other people. One friend said, "He thinks you're being cold and punishing him." Another said, "He thinks you're doing this to make him jealous." The irony almost gave me whiplash. Meanwhile, things with Daniel were normal. That was the shocking part. No power games, no emotional audits, no comments disguised as jokes. He asked how my day was and actually listened to the answer. One night, while we were walking back from dinner, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I knew it was him before I answered. "What?" I said. His voice cracked immediately. "Why are you doing this to me?" "Doing what?" "Pretending I don't exist," he snapped, moving on like I never mattered. I stayed quiet. "You said we'd be friends," he continued. "Friends don't replace each other in a week." "I didn't replace you," I said calmly. "You removed yourself." He scoffed. "That's such a convenient way to spin it." "No," I replied. "It's just the truth." There was a pause. Then he said the one thing that finally made everything clear. "I thought you'd always be there. Not with me. Just there. Available." I stopped walking. "I'm not that person anymore," I said. His tone hardened instantly. "So he's more important than me now?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. He hung up. And for the first time since the breakup, I didn't feel anything afterward. No guilt, no doubt, just certainty. After that call, things went quiet again. No texts, no surprise appearances, no mutual friends checking in. For the first time, he actually disappeared. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like the calm before something worse. A week passed. Daniel and I were officially dating by then. Not rushed, not dramatic, just mutual. Easy. The kind of easy that makes you realize how hard you were working before just to keep someone mildly satisfied. That's when he resurfaced publicly. He posted a long story, white background, black text, very intentional, about being discarded, about people who can't handle strong partners, about how some people only pretend to love you until something shinier comes along. I didn't need names. Everyone knew exactly who he meant. My phone lit up. "Is that about you?" "Yikes. You okay?" I was okay. What bothered me wasn't the post. It was the rewrite. The way he framed himself as the victim of a story he authored. Later that night, Daniel asked gently, "Is he going to be a problem?" I paused. He doesn't like losing. That turned out to be an understatement. The next morning, he texted me for the first time in over a week. "I see you're happy pretending I never existed." "I'm not pretending," I replied. "I'm moving on." So everything we had meant nothing. I stared at the message, then typed the sentence that finally shut something down inside me. It meant something. It just doesn't anymore. He didn't reply. He blocked me again. This time I didn't check. I didn't care. A mutual friend told me later that he wasn't doing great, that he kept telling people I blindsided him, that I emotionally replaced him before he even had time to process the breakup he initiated. I didn't correct anyone. Sometimes peace comes from letting someone believe whatever version of you they need to survive their own choices. Life moved on. Daniel met my friends, not with performative charm, not with subtle competitiveness, just genuine interest. One night while we were cooking dinner together, music playing low, he looked at me and said, "You don't flinch anymore." "What do you mean?" "Like you're waiting for the mood to change," he said. "You used to check my face every time you talked. You don't do that now." I hadn't noticed, but he was right. A few days later, I got one final message from an unknown account. "I never thought you'd actually choose someone else over me." I deleted it without replying. Because the truth was simpler than anything I could explain. I didn't choose someone else over him. I chose myself after him. And once you do that, there's no going back to being someone's backup plan. The last moment came quietly. No confrontation, no text, no dramatic scene. I ran into him at the grocery store on a random Thursday afternoon. Same face, same voice. But the confidence he used to wear like armor was gone. He looked smaller, tired, like someone who'd been replaying a story that no longer had an audience. He noticed me and froze, then walked over slowly. "Hey," he said. "Hey, I heard you're doing well." "I am." He nodded, eyes dropping. "I didn't think you'd actually stick to it." "Stick to what?" "Letting go," he admitted. That was the first honest thing he'd said in a long time. "I didn't leave to punish you," I said. "I left because staying meant disappearing." He swallowed hard. "I hope you're happy." "I am," I replied. And for the first time, it wasn't defensive. It just was. We stood there another second. Then he stepped aside. "Take care," he said. "You too." I walked away, paid for my groceries, and went home to a life that felt steady instead of tense, chosen instead of tolerated. When he said, "We'd be better as friends," what he really meant was, "Stay where I can reach you." When I said okay, what I actually meant was goodbye. The quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was different, clean, the kind of quiet that doesn't wait for interruption. Days passed without my phone lighting up in ways that made my stomach tighten. I stopped checking who viewed my stories, stopped wondering if a post would be interpreted as a message. Nothing I did needed translation anymore. That's when the second wave hit him. Not anger, not accusation, consequence. A mutual friend mentioned he'd been asking questions that didn't sound like curiosity. They sounded like inventory. Who I was seeing, how serious it was, whether I talked about him, whether I missed him. The questions weren't about reconciliation. They were about relevance. He needed to know if he still existed in my life, somewhere he could reach. He didn't. A week later, he tried one more angle. Professional, polite, almost detached. An email. He wrote that he'd been reflecting, that he understood now why things fell apart, that he wasn't asking to get back together, just asking for closure. A conversation, 10 minutes, coffee, neutral ground. I read it once, then again. Not because I was tempted, because I was noticing how carefully it avoided the real issue. There was no acknowledgement of control, no mention of entitlement, no ownership of the way he'd expected access without commitment. It was framed like a mutual misunderstanding that time and maturity could smooth over. I didn't respond. Daniel noticed before I said anything. Not because I told him, because I didn't change. No agitation, no pacing, no second guessing. I was steady in a way I'd never been before. One night he asked, "Do you feel like you need to explain anything to him?" I thought about it. Then I shook my head. Explaining would only reopen a door I already closed. That answer surprised me. Not because it was harsh, because it was simple. The rumors shifted after that. They always do. The story that I moved on too fast softened into the story that I was cold, then into the story that I was influenced, then into silence. People lose interest when there's nothing left to react to. He lost audience before he lost pride. Another mutual ran into him at a bar and told me later that he looked out of place. Not miserable, just unanchored, like someone waiting for a reaction that never came. He talked about growth, about therapy, about how relationships are complicated. He didn't mention my name, he didn't have to. Everyone knew who the absence belonged to. The thing I didn't expect was how quickly my body caught up to the decision my mind had already made. I stopped bracing, stopped rehearsing conversations before they happened. I spoke without scanning faces for approval. I laughed without wondering if it would be used against me later. Daniel noticed it in small moments. The way I ordered what I wanted without apologizing. The way I didn't soften statements to make them easier to swallow. The way I didn't shrink when something felt important to me. One night, he said, "You know, you don't negotiate your existence anymore." He was right. That was the real ending. Not the breakup, not the confrontation, not the grocery store encounter. It was the moment I realized I didn't need to be understood by someone who benefited from misunderstanding me. Weeks later, I found an old photo buried in my camera roll. A random night, my ex and I on the couch, my head tilted slightly toward him, my expression careful. Me, mid-adjustment. I didn't feel sadness looking at it. I felt recognition. That version of me did the best she could with the information she had. I didn't hate him. I didn't wish him harm. I just stopped carrying him. The last update came indirectly. He'd started seeing someone, a woman who looked a lot like me from the outside. Same hair, same style, same quiet energy. A friend mentioned it casually, then watched my face for a reaction. There wasn't one. because I knew how that story would go if nothing changed underneath. And I knew something else too. He didn't lose me because I chose someone better. He lost me because I stopped being available without being valued. That loss doesn't come with closure conversations. It comes with absence. The kind that doesn't echo. The kind that doesn't come back.